Hi guys, welcome to part 3 of this building a website from scratch tutorial. Just before we go any further, I kind of want to touch back on some of the stuff that we did in the previous tutorial for the CSS. There's one thing I did in the CSS that I did by mistake, and it's what I'll do is I'll show you in the code, or in the preview. It's the easiest thing to do. This little bit here at the end, at the bottom of the slideshow, I put a 10 pixel padding on the bottom of it. I don't know why I did that, but what we're going to do is we're going to remove that, but it's pretty straightforward, so we may as well get that done first and have that finished. As you can see, it's the fade show div and it's padding at the bottom, so all I'm going to do is just remove that. So, and we'll go back and preview that in the browser, and that's it, done. Excuse me. Okay, we'll just review some of the stuff that we did yesterday, and what I'll do is I'll actually open up the CSS document, and we'll look at them side by side. So to look at them side by side, you go into Window and just tile vertically, and it'll show you the HTML on the right hand side and the CSS on the other. So I think these are pretty much self-explanatory. The body background color is that grey color we gave it. The wrapper, there's nothing too complicated there. It has a width of 960 pixels and it's centered in the browser with a margin left and a margin right auto value, and the header has a height of 150 pixels and a width of 960 pixels, and that's the width of our header image that's kind of set in those properties. What we've also done is we've given it a margin right and a margin left auto. Now there probably is no real need to do that because it's contained within the wrapper, but I just did it just to kind of repeat what we did previously, just as part of the tutorial, just so you become familiar, because as you can see you will use a lot of the code over and over again. The next properties then were the border that we added in. So we put a border top, left and right of 1 pixel in width, a solid border which is just a solid line, and the color of asterisk 666, or some people call it #666, and what that is that's an abbreviated version. The hexadecimal code is actually a 6-digit code, but because it's 6 sixes, what we do is it's just shortened down to 3 sixes, just to make it easier. It's as I said, it's a shortcut. Now the next bit then is kind of the one that really needs the explanation. In this version of Dreamweaver, which is CS5, it's primarily based on the CSS version CSS2, which is a slightly, it's still in use today, but it's an older version of CSS, or cascading style sheets. We've started to use HTML5 and CSS3. Unfortunately, CSS3 isn't really supported in all of the browsers yet, especially in Internet Explorer. That's why you have to put in a lot of extra stuff for Internet Explorer, but it's more broadly supported in the WebKit and the Mozilla browsers. But for code hinting and things like that in Dreamweaver, it's not recognized in the version CS5. So that's the reason we've added in these extra little bits. CSS3 is a lot more powerful, a lot more robust version than CSS2. But with any good programming system, it's constantly being improved, and that's just one of the reasons that we're onto version 3 now, to allow for a lot of these different changes. There's gradient features as well that have been added in CSS3, but I haven't started to use them too much yet because Internet Explorer has major issues with gradients that are added in at CSS level, so it just complicates the code, and for that reason I'm not going to use them in this tutorial. So that's the CSS3 section of this. There is a full version of this for the four corners, and what I'll do is I'll add it in later on, maybe when we're doing the contact form on the Contact Us page. We'll add in corners for all four corners, and what we'll do is we'll add a drop shadow to it as well, because there is a drop shadow property to it also. So that's the CSS3, and what we've done with the slideshow option is, again, we've given it a width of 960 pixels and a height of 480. Now it's the image that we're using, or the sequence of images that we're using for the slideshow, that's dictating the height and width. And again, we've added a border right and a border left, and a background color of FFF, which in full code terms would be 6Fs, and that equates to white. Now you could just type in white there as well, but you have to know what colors are supported in text form and what colors are supported and what colors aren't. So I generally tend to stick to the hex codes. Now you don't need to know these because they are available through the code hinting of Dreamweaver. Excuse me. So you don't need to know those. Generally what I do is I usually go ahead and do things in Photoshop first, so that I know what colors are what and what I'm going to be using as part of a color scheme for any website I'm doing, so I know the color codes beforehand. So that's the CSS that we've done so far. So one thing that I wanted to go back into again also was the title. I didn't touch too much on the title yesterday. And as I said, we talked about it in the first tutorial, but where your title comes into it, and you see it, it becomes quite apparent when you open up the browser, when you preview it in the browser. What you can do is you can see it here, and you can see it comes up as the title, Bertie's Pitch and Putt and Driving Range Sligo, welcome. That's where the title comes in. That's something that I actually forgot to mention yesterday, something that I should have mentioned to you pretty much as soon as we did it. So I think that's all I kind of wanted to review. So one thing that I did actually, and I forgot to mention here, was in the CSS in terms of the border radius. As you can see, all the corners have to be named individually, no matter what browser you're writing the code for. But in terms of Internet Explorer, each of these have to be named individually. So you would have to go border top left radius, border top right radius, border bottom right radius, and border bottom left radius. Whereas for the Mozilla and the WebKit browsers, you can get away with doing it this way. It's a lot quicker. So that's it for now. So what we'll do is we'll go back in here and we'll just look at, we have to do the styling for the navigation. And we have to do the styling for the remainder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the styling for the navigation. So I'm going to open up the style sheet again, and again we'll tile it vertically so we can see both. Now for our navigation, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding in what's called a Spry widget. It's an automated menu system that's built into Dreamweaver. And we're going to include it in here, but I know the dimensions that I'm going to be using, and again we're going to be using the width and the height of 960 pixels. Sorry, the height we're going to be using 42, so we may as well go ahead and do that. So we add in a new, and because again it's an ID, it's a div with an ID, we're going to be using the prefix, or sorry, the hash prefix. To distinguish that it is an ID. So, and it's ID nav, and again our opening curly bracket and our closing curly bracket. Now there's no need to do what I did there, it's just to make it look a little bit neater. You can go ahead and add in your code straight in there and just have it all on the one line, but I think it looks neater when you have a line break after each of them. So so we'll go back in here, and the first thing we want to do is we want to give it a width. So so we have a width of 960 pixels, and we have a height of 42. Height of 42 pixels. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of the navigation. Actually, no, we could give it a margin left and a margin right auto, but I don't think we need to, because it's contained within the wrapper div, which is already centered, so we don't need to. We can give it, what I want to do is I want to give it a border right and a border left. So if we go ahead and what I'll do is I just copy and paste from the previous one here for the border right and the border left. So we'll copy those two properties there, press return, and we paste it in. Now the reason we got this is because there is a tab or an indent already from what we previously copied. So the easiest way to do stuff like this is, I'll just show you again just to simplify. So we have a border right and a border left here. So if we, out in the number section here, if we do copy, right click, copy, and when we come back down here, if we're tabbed into that, what we need to do is we need to select in there again and paste, and that automatically lines it up. So that's, we have a styling there of border right and a border left. So if we save that, so file and save all, and the reason I click save all is because it saves changes to all the documents you might have opened, your CSS, your HTML, or whatever. And we can't view this in the browser now because we're actually clicked in our CSS. If we go to view it in the browser, it's not an option, it's grayed out. What you have to do is you have to click back into the HTML page and preview it from there. So we preview it from there, and as you can see, it's given it the border. So I'm not going to give this a background color, because when we add in the spray asset, it's already the spray widget, the spray menu bar, it's going to have a styling of its own, so we don't need to add a background color in there. So we'll continue on, and the next thing we want to go into then is we want to give the content some of its styling. So we're going to start off with the main content one. So again, we do a line break, and we go again, our opening curly brace. So the first thing we want to do is, again, we want to give it a width and a height. So if I go ahead and we copy the width, and I think the height that we're going to give it is a height of 600 pixels. So, and we want to give it a border right and a border left again. And I think we'll give it a background color of white. So we can copy the entire piece of code from there. And what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and select out in the numbers again and paste it. Now we want to set this, I will be removing this property later on when we actually add some content to our page, because that's the content will determine the height of our individual pages. So, but for now, for convenience, I'm just going to give it a height of 600 pixels so that it makes it viewable. So if we save that now, Control and S again, and click back in the HTML code and preview it in the browser, there you can see we have our page content. Now it hasn't got a bottom border yet, so, and actually I think we should probably give it a bottom border. Yes, yeah, we should give it a bottom border. So we'll close out of that, and we'll give the border bottom. So we just copy one of these properties here, give it another line break, and we change this to border bottom. Save all, go back into our code and preview it in the browser again, and there we have it. we have a border around our entire document. And I think just for aesthetics, I think what we'll actually do is we'll go back in and we'll give our navigation a background color of white. So we'll copy that property there, and just at the end of the navigation we'll pop it in. Again, Control and S to save, and back and preview it in the browser. And there we have it. So we have a completely white sheet to work with. Okay, so we'll go back in now. So that's our nav and our content. So both our left and right contents now are the next thing that we want to determine or to style. So again, we'll make a new line break here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste in the code for the content left and content right properties. So we'll go through them here. Now, the first thing that we've done here is we've given it a property of float left. And the float left property, what it actually does is it tells the box, right, firstly we've given it a width of 300 and a height of 580 pixels with a margin of 10 pixels. So when we want it, what the float left property does is it tells our area that we want it to be all left aligned, that we want that 300 pixels box to be right up against the left margin with an exception of 10 pixels. And the easiest thing to show you this is it won't show up in the browser now, as I'll show you, because we've used a white background color. So if we go back and look at it in the browser now, it shouldn't look any different. But what we'll do is, if we give it a background color. So background color, and we'll just give it any color in here just to give you an idea. We'll give it a blue. We'll save that. Go back and view it again in the browser, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Why did that not work? Let me see. Background color. No. What we do is we give it a background color of grey. So that's 6 Cs. So we save that, and again we go back in and view it in the browser. Why is that? Oh, if we refresh, that's not working. Why is that? Let me go back in here and see. Left content. I have that done wrong. So so we save that file, save all, and we preview it again in the browser. And there we go. As you can see, we have a column that's 300 pixels wide, 580 pixels high, and it's thrown right up against the left hand side. Now by default, that would be all columns would appear left anyways, but we want to add in another column here just on this side, and we want to float that one right. So we'll go ahead and do that now. We can take, well, we leave the background color in just for now, just for observational purposes. So we have the content right here, which we've actually got to switch around again, so we just copy that and we'll paste it in here just to make sure we have that done right. So right content, so we'll save all of that again, and actually what we'll do is we'll copy this property here and we'll paste it in. So save all and preview it in the browser, and there you see we have our two columns, our right and our left column, styled in our background grey color. Now again, that's only just for display purposes. I'm not going to leave them that color, but as you can see, what we've given is there's a margin on either side of those, and what I've done is I've kind of worked those out that I know we have 960 of a width, but I want there to be 10 pixels of a margin. So what we've done here is we've given it a margin on the right of 10 pixels, a margin on the top of 10 pixels, and a margin on the bottom of 10 pixels. And what I can do now is I'm actually going to close down that CSS and show you what we can do from here, because we have our CSS rules all defined over here on the right hand side, and as you can see, as I'm clicking through them, it's actually showing you what we have. For example, the wrapper here, we have a margin left and a margin right auto, and we can go in and we can manipulate those from here. So if we go into the left content, it actually opens up that dialog box again, and we say, for example, we have a border or a background set here of a particular color. We can change that here if we want, but we don't want the background color. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove it, and all you need to do is click on apply and click on OK, and it changes it within here. And we'll do the same with the content, the right content. You can see the background color property is here. So if we double click on that, we'll go into the background property, and we can have no color on it, and just click on apply, and as you can see, it's disappeared here. We click on OK, and that's it. So this is our split property here. You can actually see the divisions. If we go into design view, you can see the little boxes that are set up here. That's our navigation. This is our left content here, and that's our right content here, and that's our margin of 10 all around it. And if you hover over it, you can actually see the margin settings on it, or if you hover over the individual div, you get your little comment box or your properties box to show exactly what parameters are set for each of the individual divs. It's a left content div, it's float left, and it's 300 pixels wide and 580 pixels in height. So that's that done. So if we go back into the code view again, and if we split, sorry, not split, if we'll go back in and we'll tile it vertically again, so we can work in both. Sorry, I closed out of the CSS, that's why this won't come up. So if we open the CSS again, and we'll tile it vertically this way. Excuse me. So we have our left and our right content styled. Now our copyright. What I want to do with that, it's outside the wrapper, so it has to be styled. Again, it's an ID. So I'm just going to copy the code in here just for the copyright div. So what we've done here is we have given it a width of 960 pixels. We've centered it now. Because it's outside of the wrapper, we have to give it a margin right and a margin left of auto to make sure it's centered horizontally in the browser. We've given it a margin top of 0, and what we've done is we've made the text line right in it, so that any text we do put into it, it's going to appear on the right hand side. So if we save that, and I think the easiest way to see that is if we go in design view, we'll go back to the code, and we'll split it, and it's for some reason not showing up. What do we see now? Can't figure out how that's not showing up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a background color just to make it a bit easier to see. So we'll do that from here, copyright, and we'll just give it a teal color background. So we'll save it all and we'll preview it in the browser. We'll just see what happens, and it's not showing up. There must be something wrong here. What do we see? We've given it an ID of copy. So div ID of copy. That's something I'm going to have to look at. But what I'm going to do for the time being anyways is we've given all our divs styling for now, so I'm going to end the tutorial for here for the time being. I'll investigate what's happened with our copy div, and we'll have it sorted for the next tutorial. But anyways, for the time being, we'll call it a day from here. But at least we have our page structure set up now with our left and our right columns defined and styled. and we'll continue on the styling in the next section. What we'll do in the next section is I think we'll add in the slideshow. So don't please subscribe and comment below. And again, if there's any suggestions you want or anything you think we should go with this design, don't be afraid to add it in the comments section below. And please subscribe. And I'll talk to you in the next tutorial. Thanks. Bye bye.